Straight to the developing news out of the Vatican. Pope Francis has died. The 88-year-old pontiff was recently discharged from hospital after being treated for double pneumonia. It's unclear how he died. Francis was the first Latin American leader of the Roman Church and was Pope for 12 years.
Joining us now is Vatican reporter Colm Flynn from Rome. Colm, obviously devastating news for millions of people around the world. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, good morning from the Eternal City. Good evening to you guys. This has come as a shock to all of us this morning. The Vatican, the Holy See, announcing officially this morning that at 7:35 a.m. local Rome time, Pope Francis passed away at the age of 88. Now, we know he has been seriously ill yesterday, or recently. We spoke about this here on the programme, spending 5 weeks in hospital, battling double pneumonia. The doctor saying on 2 occasions that he almost passed away during that hospital stay. But the Pope, as his doctors described him, was an impatient patient. He wanted to get out of the hospital, back to the Vatican, back to the people, and back to work. And that is what he did. And remember, we are just after coming out of Easter. This is the most important time for not just Catholics, but Christians right across the world. The Holy Week accumulating yesterday in Easter Sunday. And Pope Francis was there. I heard people yesterday in St. Peter's Square calling it an Easter miracle because although while he wasn't able to celebrate the main Mass, at the end of it, 35,000 people in St. Peter's Square, I was there listening to them, they started chanting, "Viva el Papa, Viva el Papa." And then sure enough, on the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica, the curtains opened up and the Pope emerged. You could see he looked weak, he looked pretty vulnerable. He just said 2 sentences. He said, "Good morning, brothers and sisters, and I wish you a very happy Easter."
What is the atmosphere like in Rome right now, and what are you expecting in the coming days?
Well, even though, look, like I said, 88 years of age with an underlying health condition, not getting any better, I think people were expecting the worst to come eventually. But with his recent comeback, we thought, well, maybe actually he could see out the Jubilee year and please God, we could have a miraculous recovery where he could be with us a little bit longer. I think back to someone like Pope John Paul II. But at the moment now, it is shock, not just here in Rome. I can tell you guys that my phone is already ringing with their radio and TV stations, people concerned and wanting to know the news from right around the world. But now there will be a number of days of mourning. People will reflect on the papacy and the legacy of Pope Francis, the first ever Pope from Latin America. Remember, before that, the popes were always from Italy or from Europe. The mold was broken a bit with Pope John Paul II from Poland and then Benedict from Germany. But he was the first from Latin America. He was the one who said, I don't want to live in the papal palace. I want a more humble apartment. I don't want to go to the summer residence by the lake because the poor people don't have palaces like that by the lake. I don't want to wear the elaborate attire. I want something simple. I want to be like the man whose name I've taken, St. Francis of Assisi. He was an incredible pope, an incredible papacy who traveled the world. I've traveled with him to Mongolia, to South Sudan, to Papua New Guinea, to Iraq. He went to the ends of the earth to meet the marginalized, the migrants, to talk about the care for the environment. These are the things that were important to the late Pope Francis.
Yeah, you've really captured his approach there, and he had a very strong theology of the idea of the poor church and reaching out to people on the margins of society, especially the poor. You've described what he's done. I guess what I would be interested in knowing is how much or how far do you think he's successfully shifted the church as an institution in that direction in what I guess is ultimately a relatively short time?
Yeah, that's a great question, and this can often be misunderstood because, you know, the church doesn't move in years or decades, it moves in centuries. And while Pope Francis, absolutely, no doubt about it, he shifted the tone, the approach, and the style of the Catholic Church as an institution, he always stressed that he was not changing the gospel and the core teachings. I'll give you an example. It was quite controversial when he announced this declaration that people in same-sex relationships could now receive a blessing. So they could receive a blessing from the local priest. But many misinterpreted that, well, now they can get married in the church. But the Pope then said, no, the sacrament of marriage has always been and will always be between a man and a woman. I cannot change any of the 7 sacraments. So he changed the tone, he made it more welcoming, he made it more open to people of all different communities and backgrounds, but he always did maintain and stay steadfast that the gospel has been there for thousands of years. It hasn't changed before, it won't change now, but he was someone who was open to discussion. He had the synod where he brought hundreds of bishops and cardinals to Rome, and he said, look, talk about the issues, talk about women priests, talk about anything you like. But after that, then things kind of remain the same. And apologies, phones are ringing here because, as you can imagine, this is the biggest news story on the face of the planet at the moment.
Colm, we might let you go because obviously you're extraordinarily busy at the moment. We might be able to come back to you later if you have a window in your no doubt crazy schedule. So thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure, guys, and thank you.
Massive news.
Extraordinary.
Yeah.
Extraordinary and so late breaking,
Oh.
just as it's emerging. So this is the biggest story in the world, no doubt about that. And it's going to be developing even through the course of this show.